Hey there, everyone. This is the Hipster Snek, here for another episode of Snek Talks. I realized that the last couple episodes weren't really much about games as much as I would have liked, so today we're going to focus on games and gaming as a whole. For starters, to help give you guys a better understanding of what gaming habits that I currently have, I do have a gaming ready PC. It's not perfect, but it handles most games quite well. I have a 3DS, I have a Nintendo Switch, and a PS4. As for older generations, I have a Wii with some GameCube games, I have a PS2, and I have a Wii U, which mostly collects dust now that most of its best games have been ported. As for games that I play currently, in addition to those games that I'm actively reviewing or going to review, I'm currently playing Astral Chain, which is fantastic. I love Platinum. I loved them back when they were Clover. I love them to this day. I started playing Code Vein, which is a really fun game from Bamco. I'm playing Earth Defense Force 5, which I've been playing in complete co-op tandem alongside World Tree Cycles. And I'm currently doing a challenge run through Pokemon Ultra Sun with a bug/ice theme. If you want to know more about that, I'll talk about that more in the comments. So where am I going with this? Today, I want to talk about a particular topic has influenced games and will continue to influence games going forward, and where I stand on it. That particular issue is actually broached in a game. It actually comes up in Hyperdimension Neptunia, specifically Mark II or Rebirth 2, in Chapter 5 of the Good and Best Endings, when Uni confronts CFW Brave. That's right, I'm talking about Piracy. The conversation in question actually starts when you get to the boss fight of a particular mission, where you meet the super robot-looking CFW Brave. During this scene, Uni opts to talk to him, and she says, "You may be our enemy, but it's almost like you can't muster evil intent." Or I thought, "I can't believe a good and decent person would defend this place." Brave responds, "Destroying this place being a factory that manufactures essentially flash cartridges or illegal cartridges where one can upload games, ROMs, onto the cartridge in order to play them for cheap or for free." And rather than bringing up that the chips will literally ultimately result in the death of Uni and her species, being that the goddesses of this world literally need people's faith called shares in this universe. Rather than bringing that little point up, she simply says that the world will fall into chaos. Technically true, but also up for debate. She then goes on to say, "If nobody buys anything and gets everything illegally, how can the economy possibly prosper?" Fair argument. Brave goes on, "Your words come from the mouths of those unable to make truly memorable games," which not only do I just love that particular line because first off, it's a really great burn, especially since he's talking to the equivalent of the PSP and the PS Vita. Because seriously, did you guys play PlayStation All-Stars Rumble? Like half the roster is not even Sony characters. But here's where the conversation actually is really interesting, I think. Uni says, "Competition is what sparks creative content." Brave responds, "Then what are the children who lack the means to enjoy such things? Is your answer to create a monetary floor that restricts access to what ought to be enjoyed by all?" That is an amazing argument. This is a really good example of the villain having a better point than the hero, because Uni does not have an answer to this. In fact, she responds with a straw man argument saying it's impossible for people to truly, sincerely enjoy something obtained illegally. That doesn't even make sense. Let's start there. That makes absolutely no sense, and also does not address the argument that Brave was actually trying to make. So let's chew on that for a minute. You know, let's say nothing of the actual console price. Individual games for a AAA release run $60 on every piece of hardware. How often do you see it that these things go on sale in actual physical retail shops? Never. Literally never. I have not seen video games go on sale when they're actually in a physical retail outlet. It just doesn't happen. Now, Steam has sales on their software, but that leads to other problems entirely. Not say nothing of the fact that no software is truly hardware agnostic, which is a tech term that relates to does this software run on all hardware? And the answer is typically no, for good or for ill. Presently, Steam is a good outlet, and it's a good way of getting games and software. But the point has to be raised that what you're buying is a license. What you're buying is a license for the game. You're not buying an actual hard physical copy that no one can take away from you. Say Steam servers went down, or say that some bit of new regulation inside of Valve changed the way this distribution service worked. How many games would you be out if suddenly they changed it or they tried to take that away from you? Now, I'm not trying to push any crackpot conspiracies. I'm not saying that Valve actually would do that, but I'm saying, what if? You don't have physical copies of all these games that you have on your account. I have over 400 games on my Steam page. If, for whatever reason, they decided that that one-time software license that you bought when you bought that game suddenly became null and void, what could we really do about it? As consumers, realistically, what could we do about it? Go to the Epic store? I don't think so. This is also going to force us to face some other hard truths. To say nothing of the fact that advancing hardware, advancing operating systems are, by de facto, going to kill games. To give you just one example, I have a copy of Vampire the Masquerade Redemption. It's a Diablo clone based in the Vampire Masquerade world, and it's a really fun game. I like it a lot, but I can't play it anymore. Not without extensive modifications or the dreaded E word, emulation. It's not that I don't see where game devs are coming from. Piracy can kill games, especially indie games or especially games that are really early in their lifespan. But the way that companies have been answering that problem have not been the proper answers. In fact, most of the time, the answers they come up with only harm consumers and encourage pirates to continue their behavior. A good example of this a few years ago was the Maxis game Spore, which, in addition to not being the magnum opus we were promised, was brought to us with on-disk DRM that was going to stop the game from being installed more than 3 times. When people finally complained hard enough, EA's official answer was to bump the number of installations up to 5. Wrong answer. This resulted in Spore being pirated mercilessly. Maxis ultimately ceased to exist, far as I know. And then you get into stuff where things become even murkier. What about the Silent Hills PT demo on the PS4 and Konami's incredibly unethical and dangerous decision to rip it from the store such that it bricked several PS4s in the process? Suddenly, that example about your Steam games hits a little closer to home now, doesn't it? It's almost like game devs aren't always in the right here. Let's get a little more technical. There was a remake of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time. The arcade beat-em-up. It was a classic. It was on the Super Nintendo. It was amazing. They made a remake version of the arcade, Reshelled, which I was able to play with my friends on his PS3. Now, the thing is, that game is no longer on the Sony store, and that's because of a licensing dispute. The license used to belong to Ubisoft up until the big corporate sell-off to Nickelodeon. And now, only pirates can get it. No one can play the game legitimately, and no one will ever make money for it. No one wants to buy the license and put the money down to save the game's life. The game is dead now, and I'll never get to play that game again. That's just one example of a recurring theme. Let's go back to 1996. Super Mario RPG, widely considered one of the best games on the Super Nintendo, never got a PAL region release. So people in Europe and Australia didn't get to play the game for over 16 years until a licensing dispute was finally resolved between Square and Nintendo to allow it to go on the Virtual Console. And what do you do then about games like Horai High that never got released outside Japan and were brought over by fan translations? It's still criminal for us to play it. What sense does that make? These games are ancient. There's no way for the developers to make money on them anymore. Sure, there's Virtual Console, but the Wii U and the Wii Game Store prove that that's a temporary solution. I'm not saying that pirates should be allowed to operate with impunity. They shouldn't be. But we have got to find the middle ground. Like, say for example, pirates waiting at least 2 years before they do anything to the software, but they then, in the name of archival and prevention loss purposes, then make copies of the game to ensure that it continues into the future. Emulation could be a really handy solution to that because it serves as the middleman between PC gaming and older console games. To say nothing of the absolute garbage that is always online DRM. And that's just consumer hostile for people who aren't in high-speed internet traffic areas. For every solution that these game devs are putting forward that are supposed to fix the piracy problem, it actually incentivizes the pirates' behavior. This creates the catch-22 that the pirates continue their behavior. Game devs are then incentivized into the unethical world of pay-to-win, random lotteries, loot boxes, and gacha mechanics. And that road will ultimately just end in a loss of media that's either unmourned or, worse yet, has a death that's celebrated. And to me, that sounds like the gamer version of hell. Hollywood lost the first generation of movies. There was no known way to prevent the film from degrading over time, and we will never, ever get those movies back. We will never get back games that are deliberately killed either by the malicious intentions of their own developers or due to the whinging, pencil-necked, limp-wristed busybodies who think that they know better than us. If saving games, if preventing a brand new medium, a medium that hasn't even managed to exist for 100 years yet, if saving all that and everything that it entails means that I'm a pirate, then yar har fiddle-dee-dee, let's set sail. We cannot sit by and idly allow these companies to kill their own IPs, to end their own games, to have consumer hostile practices that prevents archiving, all in the name of, oh, well, we were just trying to make sure that we get all our sales. Never mind that there's never been a correlation between how much a game is pirated and how much it ultimately lost, since you're not actually counting sales, you're counting a non-existent thing. So long as they're treating games as a service, the consumer will ultimately lose. When the consumer loses, it's time that we start voting with our wallets and letting them know precisely what we think of that. And it's only then will they finally listen when they're finally hit in the place that it hurts the most. They'll hurt in their wallet, but we'll be the ones who lose our entire medium because of their ill-informed decisions. Now, let's decompress for a moment. I don't want to paint a portrait that gaming as a landscape is all doom and gloom. This is a minority of cases, really, and there's not been a better time to be a gamer, to be in the nerd culture. Not only are we finally past our battles with our regulatory dragons in the forms of the Jack Thompsons and the seduction of the innocents of the world, we now have unparalleled choice between our consoles, our PCs, all of the games on the market, the rise of the indie dev. Generally speaking, it's better than it's ever been before, and I don't want you guys to lose sight of that. But when something threatens art, we have an obligation to stand for what's right. This has been the Hipster Snek, bringing you another episode of Snek Talks. And let's hope that the next one's a little less intense. I didn't really mean to get this passionate, but I hope that what I said really made sense and helped get through to all of you. Thank you. And I'll talk at you next time. Hey everyone, this is the Hipster Snek. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that I'm holding a bit of a contest. You see, the channel's rapidly approaching 100 subscribers, which is a milestone I never dreamed I would hit within the first year of the channel's activity. That in mind, I am opening a poll both on my YouTube comment section under the page itself and on the Twitter at Hipster Snek, where you can vote for a game you want me to review for the 100 subscriber special. The only limitation is it has to be something that I have a means of playing, and it can't be something that gets me banned off YouTube for having played it. That said, go wild. Whatever game you want me to cover for the 100 sub special, I will do when that time comes. So be sure to leave your vote either in the comment section on my YouTube channel or on the pinned tweet at Hipster Snek. When the subtotal crests 100, that will be the time that video is the next to go live. That'll give you something to look forward to, and I will see you there.